Hey everybody, it's Jason from the Texas Gun Vault, and once again it is Sunday, and that means it's time for the Texas Gun Vault Poll Question of the Week, a weekly vlog that I put out where I ask you guys, as my viewers and subscribers, about something about firearms, the firearms community and culture, sometimes even current events that I want to get your thoughts and opinions on. This week's question deals with customer service. As you know, in a social media driven world, customer service and public relations can make or break your company, regardless of how big or small you are. I've had some personal dealings with customer service when it comes to gun companies recently, so I thought I would ask you guys about your experiences. But first, let's dive right into this week's question. This week's question deals with gun companies and customer service. While I rarely have to send a gun back to the manufacturer for repair, parts, or recalls, it does happen from time to time. This week I had to deal with 3 different companies for various reasons. One is a recall, one was to acquire a part, and the other to check in on some custom work. In my experiences with gun companies, customer service has been mixed, and I was curious what your experiences have been. So for this week's question, have you ever used a gun company's customer service for any reason, and was it a positive, neutral, or negative experience? Share your stories in the comments. So as I mentioned in the question here, I had to deal with a few companies. Now this is just my recent experiences, although I have dealt with many companies in the past, sometimes looking for parts, sometimes having to send things back for repair. And I'll share some of those stories with you. But first, let's see what your results are and what you guys have to say. With only 416 votes this week, I guess not a lot of people have experience with customer service and gun companies. We have very positive. They were quick, responsive, and did great work, 36%. Generally positive. They fixed the issue, but may have been slow, 37%. Neutral, may or may not have been helpful to some extent, 16%. Negative, slow to respond, may not have fixed the issue, 5%. And very negative, almost no communication or customer appreciation, 6%. Now I have to say that I'm really happy with the results of this week's poll. Only 11% of people said they had a negative experience in any way with a firearms company's customer service. I think this bodes well for the industry. And the reason this is so important is that the world is already so small as it is. And once you start getting down into niche activities where everybody knows each other, or at least has 1 or 2 degrees of separation, word of mouth can be huge. Just look at what happens on YouTube or Instagram. You can have a mega influencer here in the firearms community. We're talking one of those gigantic YouTube channels, and they can have a negative experience about a gun and look at all the negative press and people's opinions about that company and how they can change over time. This can make or break a company, whether that is good or bad. Sometimes I think a company might have just a bad gun on the market, and maybe it was just one of the complete lot that gets reviewed. It has a negative experience with an influencer, and then all of a sudden that company is completely trashed for the wrong reason. And then you have a lot of people who I always warn against. I always say don't have YouTube heroes, meaning follow everything that they say. But you have a lot of people that do and then say, well, this company X or brand X or part X or whatever is a piece of junk because did you see the review? Well, we all know how that happens. We've all seen it go on here on YouTube and Instagram and all the other gun tube areas of the internet, right? Even on forums. Forums especially can be extremely toxic. So I think it is really important that companies have good customer service. You might put out a product that doesn't go over very well, and you have to make it right. In the world of guns, you have people like myself that are going to buy a lot of guns. So for example, even if you have a relatively cheap product, and I'll go over one of those in just a moment, and if you have a customer that doesn't like it or needs something fixed, and the fix for you would only be about 50 cents to $1, go ahead and fix it because this person may come back and buy more and more of your guns. But let me share with you guys a couple of my personal experiences. We'll start with a positive experience first. We're going to start off with Colt. Now, I have sent a number of guns back to Colt for customer service. One I no longer have. It was a Colt New Agent, which is a subcompact 1911. I had a problem with one of the safety detents. I called them up. They immediately, without question, sent me a label, and I sent it back to Colt, and they had it back to me within 1 week. They didn't ask any questions. They're like, okay, send it in, we'll take a look at it. And they did fix the issue, and it came back better than new, and they even threw in another magazine for my time. Then my latest Colt customer service experience deals with this gun right here, and this is my wife's. I don't know if that's going to be in focus there. This is my wife's Pocket Light Mustang, little tiny 380 pistol, and I had a problem with the sear engagement on this gun. We took it to the range, and all of a sudden the hammer was not holding back anymore. So I called Colt, and once again I just told them my problem. They sent me a label to ship it off FedEx the same day. I sent it off to them, and they got it back in no time. I really didn't have to talk to anybody. They just said, what's your problem? Okay, come on, send it in. And they took care of it. So I was really impressed with them. And you guys know I'm a big Colt fan. I think Colt also knows their reputation. They are a legacy gun company. You have people that own Colts that are hundreds of years old. You have people that are Colt collectors exclusively. It can be a very niche community. And so keeping your customers happy is really important. If you drop the ball on your customer service and making your customers happy, they will stop buying your product or stop telling other people to buy your product. Now, another company recently that I've had, I'm going to put this one in the neutral to generally positive category, and I know a lot of people are going to love this gun. This is an MP5 clone, obviously, an RAL 8000, kind of HK's flat dark earth color. This receiver is made by a company here in Dallas called TPM Outfitters, and they are known for making some of the best roller locking MP5 clones on the market. Now, the story behind this gun is that this is kind of the end product of something that I have been working on for about 11 years. About 11 years ago, I bought a Special Weapons 5, and this is before any of the current MP5 clones really were widely available and on the market. I wanted an MP5, and it was the only way that I could get into the MP5 world without spending a ton of money on an HK94 and have it converted. So I bought a Special Weapons 5, and it was one of the biggest mistakes of my life. That receiver was so out of spec, and if you look at all the reviews of those guns that were made in the 1990s, they were horrible, and I had one of the horrible guns. Over time, I upgraded as many parts as I could, going to HK parts for the lower, the trigger group, the stock, the hand guards, the magazines, and so forth. I do have a few US parts on this, which are also very, very high quality, made by a company called RCM, the barrel and the bolt carrier, but the bolt on this is an actual HK one. But anyway, eventually I got to the point I was tired of all of the issues, and I sent that gun to TPM Outfitters, and I said, hey, can you cut up this SBR receiver? I need it destroyed because I don't want it anymore, and I'm tired of dealing with the issues. But can you take all of the HK and quality parts off this gun and build me an MP5 with one of your receivers? And they said, yeah, and they gave me an estimated time of 90 days. I was like, well, I'm in no rush whatsoever. And this was back in January. So I left the gun with them. 90 days goes by. I didn't hear anything. I had already filled out the Form 1. I already bought the receiver from them, so I was able to fill out the Form 1. I already had the serial number and everything. So I Form 1 the receiver and was waiting. And then 4 months goes by. 5 months goes by. And I would email them pretty much like in the 25th or 26th of every month. And I was like, hey, just checking in. There's no rush. I always go by the policy of you catch more flies with honey than you do vinegar. So when it comes to something that I need to get done, I'm always very patient and always very kind. Hey, hope business is going good for you. I know it's super busy. I just wanted to check in and see where my build was and so forth. And I'd always get a response. Hey, it's gonna be a couple more weeks. We're waiting on this part. We're waiting on this, or we're backed up on these orders. Okay, totally cool. Wait another month. After about 9 months, I finally got the call, and I was able to go pick up this gun. They finally got done with it, and I absolutely love it. The quality of this gun is off the chart. They do amazing work. but it's a small shop. So there's only 2 guys working in this place. So one of the reasons why they're so far behind and never really respond to calls or emails is because there's only 2 guys in the shop and they have a ton of work to do. So sometimes customer service isn't because they don't care, it's simply because they're understaffed. And many times gun guys aren't really good customer service guys. But with a company where you're spending a lot of money on their product, and I think there's kind of a sliding scale. So for example, if you're a company like High Point and you're making a $150 gun, well, I don't think you have to care about customer service as much. Sure, you may tick off 1 customer or 2, but they're gonna go out and buy another $150 gun. But when you're spending potentially $4,500, and no, I didn't spend $4,500 on this. Well, maybe over the entire lifetime of the gun to get the build where it is. You are expecting amazing customer service because this is going to be, once again, a niche market. How many people are going out there to buy custom roller locking guns? And if you tick off your customers, there's going to be word of mouth. Someone's going to post about it on a forum, make a YouTube video, and it could hurt your bottom line. So you got to have great customer service as your price point goes up. Well, I will say they were always nice and extremely kind. They might not have always been the most responsive, but they did get it done in 9 months and the quality is off the chart. So while I wish they just would have been a little bit more upfront and honest about the time, I am not upset in any way, shape, or form, and I'm really happy with how this gun came out, and I can't wait to do a range report on it. Then we have a company that we all know and love, or hate, depending on your perspective, that I had a bad customer service experience with, and that is Glock. It was on this gun in particular. This is the Glock 44. And this is a 22 version of maybe like the Glock 19. And the only issue I've ever had with this gun is the firing pin spacer. It is a known part in this that, due to kind of a design defect, can wear out in certain guns. I wanted to have a couple extra on hand, and the one I had was already kind of prematurely wearing. So I called Glock up and said, hey, can I purchase some of these spacers? I don't see them anywhere online, and I'm having this particular issue, which is a known issue, and I'm willing to pay for them. I'm not asking for you to send them to me for free. I don't want that. I just want to spend, I'm willing to spend 20 bucks on 2 spacers. I know these are like 50-cent parts. And I would hope that they would think about the future and think, well, this 50-cent part could end up having this guy buy way more guns in the future. You guys know I buy a lot of guns. And I might buy more Glocks. And if you show me good customer service, your 50-cent investment might go for thousands and thousands of dollars into the future. But what did Glock say? Well, they said one word: no. That's it. Their customer service representative could not even take the time to write a sentence out and go, we're very sorry, but we're backlogged on the production of these pistols, and the parts for these pistols will not be available in the immediate future. They just said no. It wasn't signed. It wasn't anything. It was pretty rude, in my opinion. So that's how you're going to treat your customers that are going out to buy your pistols. Now, this is kind of a mid-tier, mid-price point pistol. And a lot of times people that buy Glocks are going to buy more Glocks. You think you want to keep your customers happy. So just to respond with no, well, that left a very bad taste in my mouth. So this was a negative experience. So going through each one of these, let's kind of talk about them. Very positive. They were quick, responsive, and did great work, 36%. This is actually the overwhelming response that I get when I talk to people, especially when they deal with kind of the legacy companies like Ruger and Smith & Wesson. And I can tell you, I had an issue when it came to Ruger, when it came to customer service, and they were awesome. They solved the problem immediately. Smith & Wesson was also the same. I think these companies, especially the big companies, do a pretty darn good job. Then we have generally positive. They fixed the issue, but may have been slow. Yeah, sometimes these companies, they're more into the manufacturing. They want to get more guns out the door, so dealing with customer service issues might not be their top priority, although it should be. But they do get the job done. They do it well, and they take care of their customers. You just kind of wish that you could get the gun back in a more timely manner. So if you have to wait a month or two, that's not too bad. But if you have to wait 6 months to a year, that can become an issue. Then we have neutral, may or may not have been helpful to some extent. I don't know anybody that's really had this kind of besides me, but most of the time the neutral is just because some aspect of interacting with customer service or the wait time was the problem. Normally it does get fixed. You just wish they would have been a little bit more attentive to your needs. Then we have negative, slow to respond, may not have fixed the issue. And actually, another company that I've been dealing with lately is LWRC International. As you guys know, I recently bought an LWRC SMG 45, a very, very expensive pistol. Well, it's more of a pistol caliber carbine. Well, I'm going to SBR it. But one of the things I always do with almost any gun that I buy is I take the guns apart. I want to know everything about the mechanics of the gun. I will sometimes detail strip guns down to clean them, look at them, put them back together, and inspect them. That is just because I love everything about the mechanics of guns, the way that they work and what goes into them. And the SMG 45 is a really fascinating gun. It is like nothing else on the market. Well, one of the things, because I'm going to SBR, I said, I'm going to take off this pistol brace. Number one, I don't really care about the pistol brace, so I unscrewed it to see how hard it was. I had heard some people say it can be kind of seized and locked in place. Well, I took it off and I kind of hurt the head of the screw a little bit. Well, maybe I can touch it up with a little bit of cold bluing and I can fix that. And once I started to put the gun back together, this pistol brace went back in really, really tight. I didn't have it completely lined up. And unfortunately, I partially cross-threaded the screw and the back plate. So it's not really that big of an issue. I was like, okay, I'm gonna call up LWRC and say, hey, can I get this new back plate? It's not a controlled part. I am totally willing to pay for it. I'll pay whatever it is to get a new one. And of course, the screw. How much can a screw cost? What, $5 tops? Well, they didn't respond to my emails. And I contacted customer service. They didn't respond to my emails. And then I contacted their web store, which sells all the parts. And they didn't respond to my emails. Then I contacted technical support, and they didn't respond to my emails. So finally I called them. I'm like, hey, can somebody help me with this issue? This is what happened. I just spent $3,000 on your gun, and now it's not right. Can I have somebody help me to make this right? Well, let me put you in touch with somebody. And they put me in touch with a person in charge of the web store and a person in charge of technical support. And both of them go, no, we don't sell that. We don't have any of that right now. So you're not going to help me after I spent all of this money with your company? You guys know that you make very expensive guns. And if I have a very positive experience with your company, I'm going to tell other people to buy your expensive gun. And I might even buy my own expensive gun besides the one I have from you again. Well, they apparently don't care. So right now, I don't know what I'm going to do about this back plate and this screw. I might have to go a different option when I get my tax stamp in, coming up with some type of fixed stock adapter or something. I saw somebody sells one of those online. So I got to figure all of that out. But right now, I'm really disappointed in LWRC. And if you work for LWRC or know somebody that does, know that I'm extremely disappointed. And when it comes to my range report and my review of this, I'm going to have to talk about it because I cannot believe that you make such quality guns and will not help your customers. And even if you cannot help your customers, it is important that you go out of your way to show that you care. A lot of times when it comes to customer service, you don't have to resolve the issue. But if you show compassion and say, we are really sorry that this happened, or we don't make this part, let's see what we can do. Even if you know you cannot get the part, if you do the little bit of legwork, the person on the other end of the phone or the email is going to go, wow, this company really does care. They're trying to fix the problem. Unfortunately, they just couldn't. But I appreciate their time. When you are short, like Glock was with me, just saying no, or with LWRC saying nothing, or finally when I called them and forced them to talk to me, they go, no. Well, that does not bode very well. And then finally, we have very negative, almost no communication or customer appreciation. And that's where I was, and those are my stories. So with that said, let's dive into the top rated comments of the week, and let's see what you guys have to say and find out about your experiences. With the top rated comment of the week, we have some guy who says, Diamondback was very happy to help me when I literally shot a DB9 Gen 4 to a point it was slamming the frame. To be fair, I only put the cheapest steel case through it and often would shoot 1,000 rounds a month through it. But I sent it to them and got it back 2 weeks later looking brand new and ready to be abused. So, while I do not own any Diamondback products, this is a story that makes me feel good, that if I do buy a Diamondback, I might get good customer service if I have an issue. If they stand behind their product and go, we're going to back this up with a warranty, we're going to back it up with our pride of manufacturer, it makes me want a Diamondback even more. And then for our next comment, we have Nunya Business, who said, I had a firing pin issue on my Banshee. Cost me the coyote that ate my ducks. CMMG sent me a new one right away. That click with no boom still haunts me. Well, he doesn't say if he had to pay for it, but it sounds like he just contacted them up, said what happened, and without question, they just sent him a new part. That's what a company should do, especially on a part that is really, really cheap. LWRC and Glock, you need to learn from them. Then we have John Green, who says, my customer service experience rundown. Springfield, warranty work requiring sending a pistol to them. CS rep was helpful, repair was satisfactory, but took a couple of weeks longer than stated. Taurus, ordered parts for a second-hand revolver. CS rep was very helpful, but not very knowledgeable. I got what I needed, but it took a while for him to locate the parts and verify that he could sell them to me. No problem, I suspect he was new. Beretta sent in a pistol to repair damage I had caused to it. Helpful, fast, and quality repair. So we have a mix here. And one of the things I was going to talk about, and I just realized reading this comment, is that sometimes bad customer service isn't neglect, it is just ignorance. And I can forgive a company if they have a customer service rep that might be new to guns or new to the job or new to the process. Sometimes it is just ignorance and it's not maliciousness. Then we have Laser222, who says, recently had to send in a gun to Ruger for something I did and no fault of the guns. They were great and only took 2 weeks turnaround time. I also had to hit up SB Tactical for a small screw and they had it out the same day. Probably had to deal with a few others, but can't think of them off the top of my head. I try to stick to good brands that have a solid reputation. And he's absolutely right. The reputation can make or break a company. It can tell me, well, I might not be 100% interested in this gun, but I hear such good things about the company and their customer service. I'm going to buy their product anyway and give them a shot. The word of mouth is so important in the gun industry, and that's why I don't understand why not all companies strive to make customer service one of their top priorities. Then we have Texas Gargoyle, who says, my first semi-auto I bought when I got my CCL about 6 years ago was a Taurus PT 111. It had extraction issues, so I called Taurus and explained what was going on. They were very kind and even paid for the shipping to them and back. Fast service, and I have never had another issue with that PT 111. I even still to this day have that firearm, and even though I have collected many firearms since then, it is still one of my favorite carry guns. And right there is another great story of how important customer service can be. Because even though he's moved on to other guns, collected many more guns, because of experience with Taurus, he holds on to it. It's something special, maybe a little nostalgic in a way. It was his first gun, but also Taurus took care of him, and that says a lot. Well, I went through a lot of these comments, and I gotta say I was really impressed with a lot of companies, mainly because even the cheaper brand companies like High Point or Kel-Tec, people had very positive experiences with their customer service. And I think like a company like High Point, where they're cranking out $150 or $200 guns, I would think that they wouldn't even care about customer service. Like, what you gonna do? It's only a $200 gun. You're not buying a ton of guns anyway. But they took care of their customers. I am extremely impressed with that. And then of course we have the people on the high ends that don't seem to care at all, like LWRC. Yeah, I know I'm a little frustrated with them and I've brought them up a number of times. But right now, I'm telling the people in the gun community, don't buy LWRC. So many of the parts on their rifles are proprietary or only specific to their design, and if you have an issue with them, you can't get them replaced. They won't contact you and they will not help you. Now, this may change in the future. Who knows? But LWRC, I say watch out for. I'm not saying they make a bad product, but sometimes a gun breaks. Sometimes you need a part. Sometimes you do something stupid. One of the commenters here said he broke the gun, but the company even fixed it. Or in my case, when it came to that screw, I'm the one that cross-threaded that screw. I take full responsibility and blame myself. But it's just a screw. Come on, send me a new screw. I'll even pay for it. I'll pay for the shipping and I'll pay for your time. I just need that screw to get my gun back in working order. Do the right thing. So there you go. So that is the Texas Gun Vault poll question of the week, dealing with customer service. I really appreciate reading all of your stories, and I gotta say, some companies have gone up on my list of appreciation and some have definitely gone down based off of your stories. And that is the power of social media. That is the power of word of mouth and how small the world is. So what do you guys think? Let me know in the comment section below. And if you guys want to participate in next week's poll, please go to the community tab of my YouTube channel. The link will also be in the description below. Go over there, vote, like other people's comments, and comment yourself. So there you go. So let me know if you have any questions and let's have a great discussion. So as always, thanks for watching.